In February 1959, 9 experienced hikers entered the frozen Ural Mountains in Russia. They were young, trained, and prepared for extreme conditions. Maps, compasses, cameras, everything to survive and record their journey. The mountains were harsh. Winds cut like knives, snow buried the landscape, and temperatures plunged far below freezing. Days later, none of them returned. When searchers finally reached their campsite, what they found defied explanation. This is the mystery of Dyatlov Pass. Search teams eventually discovered the hiker's tent, half buried in snow, surrounded by the endless white of the Ural Mountains. But what shocked them most was the way it had been opened. The fabric was cut from the inside, as if the group had tried to escape as fast as possible into the deadly night. Investigators noticed something else. The tent was still intact. Their equipment, their backpacks, everything had been left behind. Inside, a diary and a few personal items lay scattered, as if the hikers had intended to return, but never did. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. Temperatures dropped below -30 degrees Celsius. The snow was thick, the ground frozen solid. Running into that darkness without proper clothing meant almost certain death. And yet, that is exactly what they did. Footprints in the snow showed they left calmly, not running. No signs of panic, no struggle, no chaos. Which raised a chilling question. What could scare 9 trained hikers, but still walk instead of run? Some footprints led toward the tree line. Others toward the open slopes. Their paths splitting and converging like a puzzle no one could solve. And as the search teams stared at the scene, they could feel the same fear that must have gripped the hikers. A fear so strong, it made them abandon everything they knew. The first bodies were found under a lonely cedar tree, barefoot, wearing only light clothing, frozen where they fell. The cold had claimed them within minutes. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide open, as if staring at something unseen. But the remaining hikers were discovered months later, deep beneath the snow, in positions that made no sense. And their injuries were far more disturbing. One had a fractured skull, another crushed ribs. Yet, strangely, there were no external wounds to explain such massive trauma. One victim was even missing their tongue. Investigators compared the force of the injuries to a car crash, but there were no signs of violence, no footprints of attackers, no evidence of a struggle. It was as if an invisible force had struck them in the dark. Some of the hikers' clothing was found to be radioactive. Some had severe internal injuries, while their skin remained almost untouched. The patterns were inconsistent, almost impossible. Medical examiners were baffled. How could such devastation occur without human intervention? And in that frozen silence, the mountains seemed to hold their secrets tight, refusing to reveal what had caused 9 young lives to end in terror and mystery. Over the years, many explanations have been proposed. Some say it was an avalanche, a sudden, unexpected slide of snow that terrified the hikers. But others point out the slope above the tent wasn't steep enough. And some of the injuries, the ones so extreme, seem far beyond what an avalanche could cause. Secret military weapons have been suggested. At the time, the Soviet Union was testing experimental technologies. Could a missile test or a parachute mine have been involved? Some reports claim strange lights in the sky were seen that night, glowing orange, red, almost like fire. Then there's the theory of infrasound, a rare phenomenon where wind over certain slopes creates vibrations that induce panic, nausea, even hallucinations. Could 9 experienced hikers have been driven from their tent by a sound they couldn't hear? Others suggest something not human, strange creatures in the forest, unexplained forces. The accounts of footprints that split and vanished, like the hikers were following something invisible. Some witnesses years later recalled hearing whispers or seeing strange lights on the horizon. Others pointed to classified Soviet experiments that were never revealed to the public, projects that could produce explosions, radiation, or even unknown energy. Decades later, a new investigation suggested a rare type of avalanche called a slab avalanche might explain the panic. The idea is that a small snow slab could have collapsed and frightened the hikers enough to flee their tent. But even that theory doesn't answer everything. Why leave in small groups, some barefoot, some only partially dressed? Why split up instead of staying together for warmth and safety? Why the extreme injuries in some of the bodies, while others seemed untouched? And so the mystery remains. The Dyatlov Pass incident continues to baffle scientists, historians, and amateur investigators alike. Every clue leads to new questions. Every explanation leaves gaps. And the more you study it, the more it feels like the mountains themselves are guarding a secret that may never be revealed. More than 60 years have passed, yet Dyatlov Pass is still unsolved. 9 people entered the mountains. None came back. No witnesses. No clear explanation. Only silence, snow, and questions without answers. Some say the mountains remember, that the wind carries whispers of what happened that night. Others claim the snow hides secrets beneath layers of ice, secrets that may never be uncovered. The tent, the footprints, the bodies, everything points to a story that refuses to be fully told. Researchers, historians, even curious travelers return year after year, hoping to glimpse a clue. But the peaks remain unforgiving, the forests dense and quiet. And somewhere, high in those frozen mountains, the truth may still be waiting, buried beneath the ice, locked in the shadows of the Ural wilderness. Dyatlov Pass is not just a mystery of the past. It is a reminder that nature is vast, that fear can drive even the strongest to impossible acts, and that some questions may never have answers. The story lingers, like the cold wind over the slopes, haunting anyone who dares to look too closely.